Hi guys, so today we are going to talk on the topic of ETL testing, which is extract, transform, and load testing. So we need to extract the data from the sources. The sources can be an Excel file, an XML file, a database. A particular source can be a text file having an extension of comma separated value, pipe separated value, and the values which are extracted is transformed means it is changed as per the business logic. Suppose the salary gets incremented by 10%, that means the salary of an employee is, for an example, 10,000 per month, and it got incremented by 10%. That is, his salary is now uh, 11,000, and it has been sent to the uh, it has been transformed and loaded to the data warehouse, and this is called ETL testing. First the data is extracted, then it is transformed, and then it is loaded. So extraction of data is coming from the sources can be an Excel file, an XML file, a database, and or a text file. And transformation is done as per the business logic, that whatever the transformation it can be. In Informatica there are a lot of transformations, like aggregate transformation, like filter transformation, sorter transformation, router transformation, lookup transformation. Data which are transformed is finally loaded into the target, and now this target is nothing but your data warehouse. Nikhil is telling good evening. Let me just tell him good evening. And this. So I was telling the data is extracted and transformed. Transformed with the data is changed as per the business logic and then loaded into the data warehouse. And as an ETL tester, we need to check the data which is extracted, transformed, and loaded into the data warehouse from the source. The data is loaded into the target. We need to check the data from the source to the target, and then from the target, that is nothing but your data warehouse, the data gets loaded into the BI report, that is business intelligence report. Now this BI report can be we can use various BI reporting tools, like Cognos is a BI reporting tool, like your Tableau is a BI reporting tool, like your Power BI is a BI reporting tool. So there are a lot of BI reporting tool like MicroStrategy, like SSRS. So the end product of ETL testing is nothing but a BI report which is developed. So data comes from the sources, it gets transformed, and then it gets loaded into the data warehouse, and then finally it goes to the BI report. So the testing will be divided into two parts. First is the testing will be done from the source system to the target system, that is nothing but your data warehouse. And then the part two of the testing is that a testing will be done from the data warehouse to the BI report. So testing is divided into two parts. First part is from source to data warehouse, and next part is from data warehouse to BI report. So there are two kinds of test engineers. One is who checking the data from the source to the data warehouse. That is called as ETL test engineer. Since the data is extracted and transformed and loaded, we are checking the data from the source to the target. And the other test engineer is BI reporting test engineer. What he does is he checks the data from the BI report to the data warehouse. So from the data warehouse, finally data goes in going into a BI report. The BI report is developed using the Power BI reporting tool, or if you can take any good evening Shiva, good evening everyone, good evening Shiva, and good evening everyone is online. SF video. And guys, so what I was telling is hi to all. Let me just tell hi to all. So what I was telling is, guys, I was just giving the introduction of ETL testing, and I was telling that the data is extracted, okay, from the source system. Source can be an Excel, an XML, text file, or a database. It is transformed. That means it is changed and then loaded into the data warehouse, and from data warehouse to the BI report. These transformations in Informatica can be an aggregate transformation, a filter transformation, a shorter transformation, a router transformation, a lookup transformation, a joiner transformation. That's the main challenging part for an ETL tester, to test the transformation logics and then check that each and every data is loaded properly from the source to the target, that is nothing but your data warehouse. And the next part of testing comes when we check the data from the data warehouse to the BI report. So there are two kinds of testing which we have to thoroughly understand. One is the ETL testing. Data is extracted, transformed, and loaded. And then the next kind of testing is the data which is loaded into the data warehouse. From there, if we are checking the data into the BI report. So there are two kinds of testing actually. Now, guys, the first thing will be asked is, can you explain your ETL project architecture? So you have to be very, very ready and explain it neatly how we are going to explain the particular ETL ETL project or project architecture. So this is the first question asked in any interviews. And if you're really working, you should know that what is the project and what is the project architecture. To know the project architecture, you have to understand the source system. First question will be asked, what is your source? It can be a database, it can be a file, it can be an Excel sheet, it can be an XML. These are most commonly used source. And then you have to tell that from the source it is going to the staging area, then from staging area it is going to the data warehouse, from data warehouse it is going to the data mart, from data mart it is going to the BI report. So there are so many layers. First is the source layer, then is the staging layer, then is the data warehouse layer, and then is the data mart layer, and then finally it is the BI reporting a layer. So this is the last layer. Every layer is very, very important, and validations are done on every layer. The first thing when you explain your project or your project architecture, first thing you should tell, data is coming from source, it is going to the staging area, from staging area it is going to the data warehouse, from data warehouse it is going to the data mart, and from data mart it is going to the BI report. If you explain like this, your project architecture is completely over. First source, staging, data warehouse, data mart, and BI report. And the testing is done from the source to the data warehouse and from the data warehouse to the BI report. Now, the question comes, what is this staging area? And what is a data warehouse? What is a data mart? What is the significance of a BI report? So guys, let me tell you, the data warehouse and data mart and database are not the same thing. Many people are getting confused that this database, data warehouse, data mart are same thing. No, 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 guys, you have to understand that data warehouse is a database, but there is some difference from a normal database. Normal database is always having transactional data, day to day data, 6 month data, 1 year data. This is the first thing. Database data are transactional data, but data warehouse data are historic data. That's the first thing we will remember. Database data is what? A transactional data. Data warehouse data is what? A historic data. For a database to qualify as a data warehouse database, there are four criteria. Okay, current data also. Yes, guys, in database, yes, database is having current data. Okay, let me just tell you, current data or transactional data. Okay, so database is having, let me just write down here, transactional data, whereas data warehouse is having yeah, historic data. This is the first thing, guys. I have written in the chat. Database is having transactional data, but data warehouse is having historic data. And the next thing is, for a database to qualify as a data warehouse, it should be subject oriented, integrated, non volatile, and time variant. These four features makes a database a data warehouse. For a database to qualify as a data warehouse, it should be subject oriented, it should be integrated, it should be time variant, and it should be non volatile. First thing we'll understand what is subject oriented. So subject oriented means the data in a data warehouse is related to a particular subject. It can be sales, it can be finance, it can be marketing. All these are related to a particular subject, a company, employee details. So data warehouse data is subject oriented. First thing, data warehouse data is subject oriented. Next is data warehouse data are integrated data. This is the most important difference. Data warehouse data is always an integrated data. If you tell this much also, your definition will be almost correct, that data warehouse data is always an integrated data. Integrated means what? Data from the databases, that transactional data are getting accommodated, is getting integrated and loaded into what? Data warehouse. That means what, guys? Suppose a sale is happening in Marathali, a sale is happening in BTM, a sale is happening in Kormangla, a sale is happening in Hebbal for a particular jeans, for a particular product. Now what will happen? All these data will be stored in the databases. Now from these databases, the data gets accommodated, the data gets integrated into a centralized repository, that is nothing but your data warehouse. So you have to always understand data warehouse data are integrated data. Now comes what? Time variant and non-volatile. Time variant means what? It is 20-year, 30-year, 40-year, 50-year, 100-year, 1000 years. Data are in data warehouse, but database data will never have 20 years data, 5 years data, maximum 1 year. 2 month, 3 month, 6 month, maximum 1 year data are where? In the normal transactional database. But in data warehouse, it is a huge amount of data. If you want to know your account details, which was 5 years before, then what happens? The bank takes time to give that particular account details. That 10 year before, what was my account detail? Then the bank will take time, because now they have to go to what? Data warehouse database and get the data and give the account details. So first thing you have to understand is what? Subject oriented. The data in the data warehouse is subject oriented. Next you have to understand is integrated. The data are getting integrated from all these databases. Data gets accumulated, data gets integrated in the data warehouse. And time variant, that means historic data are there, more than 5 year, 6 year, 10-year data are in the data warehouse. And then next thing is non-volatile. Non-volatile means what, guys? Now this is 20-year data, so we cannot do update and delete and all, because this is 20 years before. What are the transactions have happened for those particular data? So we'll not use update and delete in data warehouse. So it is what? Non-volatile. We will not use any DML activities. For a database to qualify as data warehouse, these four properties should be met: subject oriented, integrated, non-volatile, and time variant. If these four features are there in a particular database, then we will call it as what? Data warehouse database. So now you have understood the difference between database to and a data warehouse. For a database to qualify as data warehouse, it should be subject oriented, it should be integrated, it should be non-volatile, and it should be what? Time variant. Yes, guys, if you have understood now the data warehouse, now let me tell the project architecture. Data goes from source to the staging area to the data warehouse to the data mart and then to the BI report. So next thing is, what is the difference between then data warehouse and data mart? So guys, let me tell you, data warehouse and data mart are not the same thing. Data mart is a subset of data warehouse. Data mart is what? A subset of data warehouse. All the properties of data warehouse will be there in data mart, but what will happen in data mart is that it's a subset. Suppose an employee details are there in a company, so many employees are working. Now some are working for sales department, some are working for finance department, some are working for marketing department. So now we have divided into separate data mart databases, which is having what? sales department data, this is one data mart. It is having finance department data, it is one data mart. So it is delivery department, it is one data mart. So data mart is a subset of data warehouse, because to test the data easily we need separate data marts. So what happened, guys? From source to staging area, from staging to data warehouse, from data warehouse to data mart, and from data mart to BI report. What is difference between database and data warehouse? For a database to qualify as data warehouse, it should be subject oriented, integrated, non-volatile, and time variant. What is the difference between data warehouse and data mart? Data mart is a subset of data warehouse. Now, what are the validation done from source to staging is what? The basic check. Staging area, we do the basic check. That is called as data quality check. Like what? The name of the employee should be in uppercase. This is one basic check. The data type should be checked. This is again a basic check. The basic checks are done in the staging area. But then what is the testing done in the data warehouse? The complex logic, the business logic. Like what? Yeah, your salary should be incremented by 10%, or the data is getting aggregated, or data is getting filtered. All this complex logic validation is done in which layer? In the data warehouse layer. And from data warehouse, it goes to the data mart and then to the BI report. So as an ETL tester, we tell that overall we have done two kind of testing, from source to data warehouse and from data warehouse to data BI report. Although we check from data warehouse to the data mart, from source to data mart, but we will tell at the time of telling source to data warehouse, from data warehouse to the BI report. There are a lot of validation, guys. When I will take a live session to validate each and every transformation, and also how to validate a BI report, please attend my live session, and we will continue with the learning of the further validations, each and every validation, how to validate the aggregate transformation, and how to validate the all the validations. Someone has some doubt. Pranay Dubey. Sir, I have one question. Suppose I have one column in source table, first name and last name, but I want to load the data into target in two columns. How can we do this? See, this is your question that you are asking, that one column in source table, first name and last name, but I want to load the data into the target into two columns. That means you have to split the data and load it. But who will do that? That will not be done by ETL test engineer. That will be done by the ETL developer. They will write the SQL queries. They will write the transformation logics, and data will be loaded into two columns, first name in one column and last name in another column. And what we will do, we will validate that the data has been properly loaded from one column to separate columns or not. Our job is not to create the transformation. Our job is not to create the transformation, to create the logic. That is done by the ETL developer. What as a test engineer will do, will check that the data is loaded or not from one column to the different columns. So am I clear, guys? Tell me any question, anyone? ETL developer will develop the logic. The logic. We need to test the logic created by ETL developer. Any further question, guys, in the project architecture, source to staging to data warehouse to the data mart to the BI report? Testing is done from source to data warehouse, from data warehouse to data mart. Testing is done based on three documents. BRD document, that is called as business requirement document. There is something called as technical specification document, and most important is what? STM document. If you don't tell any document and you tell that we have done the validation as per STM document, that's over. Source to target mapping document. So also called as STTM document, source to target mapping document, also called as STM document. When I will go to the other classes, I will show you one live STM document where the source data are there, transformation logic is there, target data are there, and based on the STM document, we'll check the data has been loaded properly from source to target. Every validations we will learn for with respect to ETL testing, with respect to BI report testing in our next live session. Keep subscribing the channel, keep liking the channel. Thank you guys for joining this live session. Have a nice day. Thank you. Bye.